Tonight, we're celebrating the women who may be tough but fair in their decision-making in local courtrooms. Our judges, all of my next guests are judges here in Harris County, and they're all female. Joining us, Judge Geraldine Manor, Judge Elliott Thornton, Judge Elaine Palmer, and Judge LaShawn Williams. Glad to have you all here on the Factor Uncensored. Happy Women's History Month.
Happy Thank
So
you.
first of all, when you guys, we think back in history, there was a time where there were mainly male judges. How important is it to bring a female perspective to that judge?
So at that time, there was actually only male judges, right?
Right.
So we find it a high honor to serve on a judiciary that's reflective of the community that we serve. So we think that that's very important.
And that diversity, important,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Women are the majority in this country. Yes, we outnumber.
You're telling me, right?
We are. And so definitely, as my sister just said, we need to have that reflect the numbers on the bench as well. And Houston happens to be a city where the majority of the judges now are women.
And to have that explosion, Judge, what is that like to have so many females on the bench?
Well, actually, it's really nice because when I first started, there was only 4 of us when I first started 11 years ago, and now there's the majority of us are female judges in Harris County.
All right, and your perspective as well when it comes to female representation on the bench here in Harris County.
There is no question that when you put in a little feminine touch, when you put in a little motherly love, it comes across more fair, it comes across more equitable, so it is definitely what we needed on this bench, on these benches.
And now what we see, of course, we know a lot of males are attorneys. Do you guys get the respect you deserve as both female and African-American judges?
So,
or do you have to put some folk in their places?
Well, you always have to, there are always some that will try you. But generally, once they get to know you and they see that you know what you're doing, they come to the table the right way, and you actually do get that respect.
Say go out and come on back in.
And they do come in properly, yes.
What are your experiences? Tell us about that when we talk about the issue of males coming before you as a judge.
I can only recall even just one instance on the 6 years that I've been on the bench, and I think that experience would have been that way in any institution, not just a court, because if you're a male chauvinist, you're a male chauvinist. It doesn't matter where you are. And what we have to do is make sure that we are always neutral, that we're not emotional, but you can show compassion, you can be kind and still enforce the law and the rule of law while also making sure that court decorum is honored. And so when you, as she said, let the attorneys know, listen, we're going to abide by the rules, we're going to abide by court decorum, we're going to make sure we talk with one another in an effective, professional way. There's a reason we sit high and you're down there. I have on a robe and you're there. And they respect that. So I think it's the same with any institution. As women, sometimes we may have to show I'm just as qualified. I deserve to be here. But on the whole, I'm very pleased. Lawyers are progressive thinkers. They're sharp. They just want to do the right thing. They want to win for their clients. They want to just know that their judge is fair no matter who he or she is. And on the whole, that is my experience.
And one of the things Judge brought up was emotions. Are you all cognizant of that? Is that an issue, or I walk in with an even...
It's absolutely not an issue.
It's not an issue.
The courtroom is always the most professional arena that you work in. So occasionally the attorneys may get emotional because they're quite passionate about their position, but we are always in a neutral position. So I don't find that emotions come into play.
And I totally agree. I mean, I've had a couple of instances where you've had to literally tell the attorneys, let's take a moment, let's breathe. But from our perspective...
I love to hear you say chill out. To the attorney, Judge, chill out for a second. And what about judicial temperament? How important is that?
That is very important. having judicial temperament, because you have people coming in that it's an emotional time for them. And so you have to, not only the litigant, but also the attorney, you have to make sure everybody's comfortable. And a lot of times I had one where an attorney, he was so nervous, he was not breathing. I was like, counsel, you need to breathe, because if you pass out, that nice bailiff over there is going to be the person that give you mouth to mouth. But
I'm sure you started breathing then.
Yes, he did.
And for each of you, in the last minute or so we have here, what was it like when you saw the election results and it says you were the winner? What was that like?
You mean the first, well,
Yeah.
The first time. The first time.
I was driving on the way to the watch party, and my cousin called me. And so it was surreal. She was like, LaShawn, your numbers are up. You know, you won. And so I cried the rest of the way to the party.
Yeah, and I was actually asleep. I had gone home. The numbers were they were dancing.
It was one of those nights.
Yes. And so I left my phone on that night, and all of a sudden the room lights up. And I answered the phone, and I hear somebody say, you won, you won, you won. And so it was like I was excited. Couldn't go back to sleep that night. So that was really exciting.
So for me, it was a surreal moment. That day was the day that I made my 20th year anniversary as an attorney. So the election day was my anniversary for 20 years on the as an attorney. And so winning on that day was just, I don't know, because for me it was the end game. I always wanted to be a judge, which is why I became a lawyer. So
and there you were
and there it was.
And really quick, wrap us up.
For me, it was one of those instances where I actually didn't believe it. As I was with friends and they said, no, no, and I said, let me wake up the next morning to see those final numbers.
Well, judges, thank you all for joining us here on The Factor, and we want to honor you on Women History Month.
Thank you.
So thank you guys for joining us here on The Factor.